Today's deep dive is focused on Phase 3 of the plan that the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is using to dismantle parts of the federal government. Now, this plan wasn't publicly released, it wasn't available, but the Washington Post somehow grabbed themselves a copy. They were able to attain it. This is obviously being led by Elon Musk within the Trump administration. So let's peel back the layers to see what we can find. The first letter in DOGE, the D, it stands for department. But that's not true. This is not a department. It's more like a project or an initiative. And there's no headquarter base, although some reports say that DOGE is operating out of the Department of Commerce, which is about a third of the mile south of the White House, right there next to the National Mall. DOGE has no statutory authority. It is operating within the bounds of an executive order. So what's the goal of DOGE? It's to make the government smaller by focusing on unnecessary fat, such as DEI. So this is more than just numbers, it's a cultural shift on how it's being viewed. Now, the plan has 3 phases. Let's get into them. Phase 1 was the reconnaissance. This started on January 20th. It probably started before January 20th. This is when individuals were looking at areas to cut, what's going to be on the chopping block. Also, the plans for the reduction in force, the RIF, those plans were already being drawn out. Then came Phase 2. This started immediately after Phase 1. We saw individuals that were involved in DEI placed on administrative leave. This is when the deferred resignation program came out. This is when the emails went out to federal employees to check to see if there was a connection. Was there a way OPM could circumvent the agency and directly touch the individual? Also, we were seeing senior executives being fired. Now, imagine this. You're sitting in your office and emails start popping in. At all hours throughout the day, throughout the night, you would receive these emails. This is a little strange because OPM never directly communicated with the individual federal employee before. Not just that, but now you're noticing that your coworkers that are on probation because they just joined the federal government, or they don't even have to be new to the government. Maybe they took another position. Maybe they decided to take a supervisory position. That starts the probation clock all over again. Now there's fear among that population because they're being told to send up a list of names of people on probation. And it doesn't matter what their performance is. Many times, all that matters is you're new to the government or you're new to a position, so you do not have the same civil service rights and you're an easy target and we will get rid of you. Why was all this happening? Well, Phase 2 was the setup for what's coming in Phase 3. Phase 3 starts soon. It's scheduled to kick off tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Starting on Wednesday, the plan, according to these documents, is all those individuals that were on paid administrative leave, particularly the DEI folks, they will be getting terminated. That's what the plan says. Move from paid administrative leave to termination for those DEI people and other people in a similar type of situation. Another thing with that, the documents actually specify how to word the emails in order to avoid legal trouble. It says on there how you're supposed to write the email and how are you supposed to communicate the phone call conversation. So there are some federal employees that have been receiving phone calls. That's the way that they've been terminated. There's one person I talked to specifically at the HHS who was driving home from a day of work to get the phone call to let him know he was no longer needed in the agency. Another person that had outstanding performance review, but he was on probation. The third phase has 3 workflows. The first one is to identify more individuals to place on paid administrative leave. The second one is to completely remove any and all DEI offices. And then the third one is what they're calling corrupted branches. They want to target corrupted branches and they want to dismantle them. What are these? This can include some parts of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor, the Education Department. Parts of these offices are not corrupt by the definition of the word. It's just they've been too much influenced by DEI policies of the past. So it's easier just to get rid of them. Now, within the bullet points, the list within the documents, there is a directive. RIF the Phase 1 offices in their entirety. But here's a twist. Even DOGE doesn't fully understand the legality of the actions that they're taking. There's an FAQ section within these documents, frequently asked questions. One of the questions is, under what authority are you directing us to do this under? And next to that question, 2 letters, EO, question mark, executive order. This signals further doubt. This is just one part of the overall larger plan. We've seen the executive order come out that orders agencies to prepare for a reduction in force, to prepare for mass reductions within their workforce. Now, people say, yeah, Bill Clinton did this, Ronald Reagan did this. They both did it. Yes, that's true, but they had congressional support. They were offering buyouts that weren't suspect, that didn't make people scratch their head and wonder, how is this legally possible? So they did it in a very professional, structured way. Now, I've learned that when discussing this topic, there are 2 large different views. In this country, it's usually you're either on the right or you're on the left. You're a Republican or you're a Democrat. You're red or you're blue. And when you identify with one party, let's say you're a Republican, there are about 12 different bullet points that you have to agree with so that you fit into that box. The same thing if you're a Democrat or if you're a liberal. Just because you identify with one party, it does not mean that you agree with every single thing. How could it? You're an individual person. You can agree with something from the left and also agree with something from the right. But what I don't understand is if you are on the right at this point, as people are getting fired, over 10,000 people losing their job and many more to come. I do not understand comments like, I love liberal tears. Why would you love anyone's tears? Why would you want anyone to go through that? The same reason we wouldn't want to see somebody in the private sector getting fired, having their terms of employment violated. You wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. Why do we seek pleasure and enjoyment in other people's suffering? I personally do not hate President Donald Trump. What I do not like are the actions that he's taking in regards to the federal workforce. When you take civil servants who have spent 10, 15, 20 years of their life trying to make a positive impact towards the American public, and you disparage the entire workforce, you paint them all as low productivity. You paint them all as staying at home and doing no work and wasting taxpayer dollars. If your concern is waste, you're looking at 4% of the national budget, or you're looking at less than 10%. So if it's waste, there are tons of wasteful programs. And when it comes to waste and fraud, I'm a huge proponent of identify it, get rid of it. But when it comes to an individual's job, if that job is no longer needed, fine. Offer that individual a buyout with respect and kindly escort him to the door. But don't drag the entire profession through the mud. Don't continue to insult the people that have given so much to this country. You have to remember, not just a civil servant, but 30% of the federal workforce are military veterans. They have served in more than one capacity they have served, and they have chosen to continue to serve despite chasing after generating profits in the private sector. And there's comments saying that, okay, the federal government is not a work program. It is not a mass employer. So if you do the numbers, the federal government currently employs less than 2% of Americans. In many cases, Walmart could be considered a larger employer, depending on when you're doing the comparison. But Walmart is often considered the number 1 employer in this country. So I can separate the person from the action. There is some good news though, and the good news is that DOGE has an expiration date, and right now that's July 4th, 2026. So that's about 17 months from now. Maybe you wait before you jump into the federal workforce. Maybe you wait until after 2026. It's going to be completely up to you. You can also look at state government. Depending on what state you're in, there are some remote jobs within state government that could pay you more than your current job. If you're interested to learn more about that, I want you to check this video out next. If you need a federal resume example, check out the links down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.